Grandpa's memorial dinner felt like a warm blanket of memories until Matt cleared his throat. My older brother stood at the head of the long farmhouse table, a self-satisfied grin spreading across his face. "I have an announcement," he said, lifting a single sheet of paper like it was a trophy. "Grandpa left the mountain cabin to me." The words dropped like stones. My fork paused mid-air. Around me, cousins and aunts murmured congratulations, some even clapping. Matt waved the paper, calling it Grandpa's final will, and described plans to renovate the place and maybe rent it to vacationers. I swallowed hard. That cabin was where Grandpa taught me to fish, where we'd watched meteor showers on the porch every summer. He'd always said, "This cabin is our family's heartbeat." I forced a smile, but my chest tightened. "Nicole," Matt added loudly, "I guess Grandpa thought you'd rather stay in the city." Laughter bubbled from a few relatives. My cheeks burned. I met his eyes. Something in his tone felt rehearsed, almost too slick. Grandpa had never spoken of a new will. "May I see that document?" I asked, keeping my voice even. Matt held it up just out of reach. "Lawyer's copy." "Don't worry, sis. It's all handled." The room shifted to another conversation, but the air around me was heavy. I pressed my napkin into my palm until it crumpled. Something was wrong. Grandpa would never exclude me like this. As Matt poured himself more wine, he gave me a sly wink. It wasn't a brotherly gesture. It was a dare. I found Matt by the coat rack after most guests had gone. "Let me see the will," I demanded, my voice low. He chuckled. "Nicole, don't embarrass yourself. Grandpa and I had an understanding. You were always his city girl, not the cabin type." "That's not true and you know it," I said. "Grandpa loved us both." "Sure," he said, buttoning his jacket. "But he trusted me to care for the property. It's business, Nicole. You wouldn't understand." His condescension stung more than his words. "I'll confirm this with the lawyer," I said. "Go ahead," he replied, eyes gleaming. "You'll only waste your time." He walked out whistling, leaving me with a knot of anger and confusion. Grandpa's eyes, calm and steady in memory, seemed to urge me not to give up. The next morning I called Harold Dempsey, Grandpa's longtime attorney. After a few rings, his gravelly voice answered. "Mr. Dempsey, this is Nicole Whitmore. I need to discuss Grandpa's will." He sighed. "Everything is in order. The cabin is left to your brother, Matthew." "That's strange," I said. "Grandpa never mentioned a new will. Could I review the document?" "I'm afraid the will is private unless contested," he replied coolly. "But I assure you it's legitimate." Something about his curt tone unsettled me. Harold had always been warm to me before. "I see," I said, forcing politeness. "Thank you for your time." When I hung up, the silence of my apartment pressed in. A single thought pulsed. This isn't right. Grandpa had promised the cabin would stay for whoever cherishes it most. That evening I visited Grandma at her cottage. She poured chamomile tea and studied me with knowing eyes. "Grandma," I began, "did Grandpa ever change his will?" She stirred her cup slowly. "Your grandfather loved puzzles, Nicole. He liked to keep his treasures safe from greedy hands." "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly. "Sometimes what's written isn't the whole story. Trust your instincts. He believed in you." Her words settled like a secret map in my heart. Maybe Grandpa had hidden something only I was meant to find. The next morning I drove to the cabin. The air smelled of pine and old memories. Sunlight sliced through tall trees as I unlocked the creaky front door with the spare key Grandpa had given me years ago. Dust motes danced in the light. I walked to the porch where we'd spent countless nights. The wood groaned under my steps. A loose board near the rocking chair caught my eye. Kneeling, I pried it up and found a small brass key wrapped in faded cloth. My breath quickened. A key, why hide it here? I turned it over in my hand, the metal warm from the sun. Grandpa's voice seemed to echo, "Some treasures need a clever heart to find." This was no ordinary key. The county clerk's office smelled faintly of paper and lemon polish. I stood at the counter while an older clerk tapped at her keyboard, her glasses slipping down her nose. "I need the most recent deed for the Whitmore cabin on Pinecrest Lake," I said, handing over the property address. She disappeared into the back, leaving me staring at a framed map of the county. Every minute stretched. Finally, she returned with a thin manila folder. "Here you go. Last recorded owner, Arthur Whitmore," she said. "That's my grandfather," I replied. "Is there a transfer to my brother Matthew?" She shook her head. "No transfer. This deed hasn't been updated in years." My heart thumped. "So no record of a will or inheritance?" "Not here. Probate court handles wills, but any new deed would be on file with us. Nothing shows a change." I thanked her, gripping the folder as I stepped into the chilly March air. Matt had boasted so confidently, waving that paper at the memorial. But if the county's official records still listed Grandpa, his so-called inheritance was only words. I leaned against my car, the spring wind whipping my hair. Grandpa's favorite saying came back, "Paper trails tell the truth, even when people don't." Maybe Matt forged something, or maybe Grandpa played a deeper game. Either way, I wasn't letting this go. Back home, I spread Grandpa's old fishing vest across my kitchen table. I'd grabbed it from a storage bin that morning, driven by a sudden memory of him tucking small notes into hidden pockets. The vest smelled faintly of cedar and lake water. My fingers searched each pocket until they brushed something hard. I pulled out a brass key attached to a faded bank tag etched with a number, 317B. A safe deposit box? I turned the tag in the light. Grandpa had been meticulous. He wouldn't leave a key like this without purpose. The next day, I walked into Pinecrest Savings Bank, the same small bank Grandpa had used for decades. A young teller greeted me with a polite smile. "I believe my grandfather Arthur Whitmore kept a safe deposit box here," I said, showing her the key. She typed quickly, then looked up with a gentle but firm expression. "Yes, we have a box under that name. But only authorized holders or legal heirs with proper documentation can access it." I explained my relationship and showed my ID, but she shook her head apologetically. "I'm sorry, Ms. Whitmore. We'd need notarized proof of heirship or a court order." Disappointment prickled, but under it burned excitement. Something important waited in that box. Walking back to my car, I whispered to myself, "Grandpa, what did you hide for me?" The brass key felt heavy in my palm, like a promise waiting to be kept. That evening I pulled Grandpa's old journals from the cedar chest at the foot of my bed. The familiar smell of wood and faded ink filled the room. He had written in neat block letters, recording fishing trips, planting dates, even the first snowfall of each year. I flipped through pages of sketches, pine cones, lake maps, until a loose sheet slipped out. It was half singed along the edge, as if rescued from a small fire. My heart raced. Across the top, Grandpa's handwriting read, "For Nicole, my promise stands." The note was brief but electric. "The cabin belongs to the one who honors its spirit. Keep it safe from greedy hands. Trust the key and follow the trail." I traced the words with trembling fingers. Grandpa had never been one for riddles, yet this felt like a treasure map only I was meant to solve. I pictured Matt swinging a hammer at the cabin's porch, ripping away our childhood summers for profit. Rage and resolve braided together inside me. This wasn't just about property. It was about Grandpa's trust. I tucked the note into my jacket pocket, the paper crisp against my chest like a silent vow. Tomorrow, I'd find someone who could help me access that safe deposit box. The next morning, a text from Aunt Marie lit my phone. Matt's changing locks at the cabin today. Says renovation starts Monday. I threw on my coat and drove through a misty drizzle to Pinecrest Lake. Gravel crunched under my tires as I pulled up. Sure enough, Matt's truck sat by the cabin, loaded with lumber. He stood on the porch, drill in hand, wearing that same smug grin. "Thought you'd want a last look," he called. "New locks going in. Can't have strangers wandering in." Strangers. I stepped closer. "It's my grandfather's cabin too." Matt laughed. "Grandpa left it to me. You had your chance to check the will. This is my investment now." I scanned the yard. Grandpa's handmade bench lay tipped on its side, boards stacked for demolition. A flash of anger warmed my face. "You're making a mistake," I said evenly. "No," he replied, voice sharp. "You're the one chasing ghosts. Go back to the city, Nicole." He turned his back, dismissing me. As I drove away, the rain thickened, streaking the windshield like tears I refused to shed. Matt thought he'd won, but Grandpa's key and that half-burned note told me otherwise. I whispered to the empty car. "Not over. Not even close." The brass key weighed in my coat pocket as I stepped back into Pinecrest Savings. A different teller, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, greeted me. "I need to ask about a safe deposit box under Arthur Whitmore," I said, sliding the key across the counter. He studied it and smiled faintly. "Haven't seen one of these old brass tags in years." "Yes, we have a box 317B. His voice softened. "Were you his granddaughter?" "Yes." He leaned closer. "I remember your grandfather well. He spoke of a special trust for family. But to open the box, the bank needs notarized proof of heirship or a court order. If you can bring that, we can help you." A flicker of hope warmed me. At least someone believed me. "Thank you," I said, pocketing the key like it was a heartbeat. Outside, drizzle misted the air. Matt's grin from yesterday replayed in my mind. He thought the cabin was his playground. He had no idea what was coming. That afternoon I met with a real estate attorney, Linda Price, in her small office lined with dusty law books. "I need to secure my grandfather's property," I explained, handing her the old deed copy and the note. She read carefully, brow arched. "Interesting. This letter isn't a legal deed, but it hints at a trust or a second document. If a safe deposit box holds a deed naming you, we need proof of your right as heir to access it." "Can we get that?" "Yes, but patience is key," Linda said. "Meanwhile, do nothing rash. Let your brother keep digging his own hole." Her calm confidence steadied me. For the first time since the memorial dinner, I felt the ground firm beneath my feet. 2 days later, Pinecrest Gazette featured a splashy photo of Matt on the cabin porch. Local entrepreneur plans luxury makeover of historic Whitmore cabin. The article quoted him boasting about transforming a rustic relic into a high-end rental. Heat rushed to my cheeks. Grandpa would have hated this circus. Neighbors called to congratulate me, thinking Matt and I were partners. I set the record straight. "It's not his," I said, voice clipped. "Matt texted that evening. Saw the paper? Big things coming. Maybe I'll name a suite after you." I didn't reply. Let him preen. Every bragging word would look worse when the truth surfaced. Grandma phoned the next morning. "Come by, dear. I have something of your grandfather's for you." When I arrived, she handed me a sealed envelope, the paper yellowed at the edges. "He gave it to me years ago and said, 'Only Nicole when the time is right.' I think the time is now." Inside was a notarized letter in Grandpa's neat handwriting. "I appoint my granddaughter Nicole Whitmore as sole steward of the Pinecrest cabin for its preservation and care." Tears blurred my vision. "Grandma, this is everything." "It's love," she said softly. Your grandfather trusted you to guard what matters. I hugged her, the weight of the letter both a comfort and a call to action. Linda studied the notarized letter, tapping a pen against her desk. Strong evidence of intent, she said, but the official deed will seal this airtight. We still need that safe deposit box opened. What's next? I asked. We file a petition to access the box as an heir. It may take a week or two. In the meantime, stay quiet. Let your brother keep assuming he's untouchable. I nodded. The waiting gnawed at me, but I understood. Rushing could tip Matt off before the trap was set. One chilly evening, I parked across from the cabin and watched Matt through the trees. Porch lights glowed as he hauled antique chairs into his truck. I snapped photos from the shadows. Grandpa's handmade rockers balanced in the truck bed. A pang of sadness pierced me. Grandpa built those chairs for lazy summer evenings. Matt was stripping memories for quick cash. I recorded the time, date, and every item he loaded. Evidence. As I drove away, I whispered to Grandpa, I won't let him erase what you loved. Not one board. Not one star from this sky. The plan was forming. I just had to hold steady. A week later, Linda called with a hint of triumph in her voice. Nicole, the probate judge approved your petition. We can access the safe deposit box tomorrow. Relief rushed through me like warm sunlight. I drove to the bank early the next morning, brass key clutched tight. The manager met us in a small private room and slid the narrow box onto the table. My hands trembled as I unlocked it. Inside lay a thick envelope labeled for Nicole. My breath caught. I opened it to find the official property deed, notarized and perfectly valid, naming Nicole Whitmore, sole owner of the Pinecrest cabin. Tears stung my eyes. Grandpa had trusted me all along. Linda inspected the document carefully and nodded. It's airtight. Your brother doesn't have a legal leg to stand on. I imagined Matt hammering away at the porch, smug and careless, while the real deed sat here, waiting. The victory felt both thrilling and bittersweet. Back at Linda's office, she explained the next steps. We'll record the deed with the county and quietly update the public record. Don't tell your brother yet. Let him dig himself deeper. I agreed. He's already tearing the place apart. Maybe he'll even brag more. Exactly, she said. Once the deed is on file, we'll plan a formal reveal. Something public so there's no room for denial. I left the office with a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. The weight of the key in my pocket was now a trophy, not a mystery. That evening I sipped tea on my balcony, imagining Grandpa's gentle chuckle. Patience, Nicole, I could almost hear him say. Truth always finds daylight. Matt's next move arrived like clockwork. Aunt Marie called to gossip. Did you hear? Matt took a big loan to fund the renovation. He used the cabin as collateral. I nearly dropped my phone. Collateral? Are you sure? Positive, she said. He was bragging at the hardware store about a big bank deal. I thanked her, heart pounding. Matt had mortgaged property he didn't own. Linda's eyes widened when I told her. That's bold. And it's going to backfire beautifully once the deed is public. The idea of Matt betting the cabin on a loan he couldn't secure made me almost pity him, but only almost. Sunday dinner at Grandma's felt tense from the start. Matt strutted in late, waving blueprints. Luxury upgrades, he announced. This place will be worth double by next summer. Relatives oohed and awed while I stayed quiet, letting him boast. Nicole, he said with a sly grin, still dreaming of the cabin? You really should move on. I met his eyes but said nothing. Inside, I held the secret like a glowing coal. Grandma caught my glance and gave the tiniest nod, her silent support warming me more than any words. The evening stretched with Matt's endless bragging. I simply smiled, knowing every boast was digging his own trap deeper. 2 days later Linda and I filed the deed with the county clerk. The official stamp hit the page with a solid thunk, the sound of victory. From that moment, public record showed me as the sole owner. Walking out into the crisp Vermont air, I felt lighter than I had in months. The next step was the reveal. "We'll wait for the zoning meeting," Linda said. "He'll have to present his renovation plan there. Perfect stage for the truth." I pictured the shock on Matt's face, the gasps from relatives and neighbors. Justice was coming, and I wouldn't need to raise my voice. Grandpa's trust, and my quiet persistence, would speak louder than any argument. The Pinecrest Zoning Board meeting drew a bigger crowd than usual. Matt arrived in a tailored jacket, blueprints tucked under his arm. I sat near the back with Linda beside me, the official deed secure in her briefcase. When Matt's turn came, he strutted to the podium. "I'm here to request permits to expand and remodel the Whitmore cabin," he began, voice smooth. He laid out grand plans for luxury rentals and upscale tourism. Before the board could respond, Linda stood. "Excuse me, Chair. I represent Nicole Whitmore, the legal owner of the property in question. We have the recorded deed showing her sole ownership." A hush fell. The chairperson blinked. "Owner of record is Nicole Whitmore." Linda handed over copies. Gasps rippled through the room. Matt's face drained of color. "That's impossible," he barked. "I have Grandpa's will." "The county recognizes only this deed," the chair replied after scanning the papers. "It is valid and notarized." Matt turned to me, eyes wide. "Nicole, what is this?" I met his stare calmly. "The truth." The room buzzed with whispers. Matt's voice rose, sharp with panic. "This is forged. She stole it." Linda spoke firmly. "The document is certified by the state and recorded. Any claim of forgery would fail in court." Matt's hands shook as he clutched his blueprints. "Grandpa promised it to me." "That may be what you believed," the chairperson said, "but legally, the property belongs to Nicole Whitmore." Matt looked around for support, but the audience, neighbors, relatives, avoided his gaze. I stayed silent, heart steady. The fight was over before it began. As we stepped outside, Matt's phone rang loud enough for everyone to hear. He answered, and his face paled further. "What do you mean the collateral isn't valid?" he snapped. "I own that cabin." I didn't need to hear the rest. The bank had discovered the truth. His renovation loan was dead. Matt hung up and rounded on me. "You ruined everything." I simply said, "No, Matt. Grandpa made his choice. You ruined it by ignoring the truth." His shoulders slumped as the crowd trickled past, leaving him alone with his broken plans. That evening Grandma gathered the family. She placed her weathered hands over mine. "Nicole, I'm proud of you," she said softly. One by one, aunts and uncles apologized for doubting me. Even cousin Leah admitted, "We thought Matt was telling the truth. We're sorry." Matt sat apart, pale and silent. Finally he mumbled, "Maybe we can split it? 50-50? I shook my head gently. "Grandpa wanted me to protect the cabin. I'll honor that. But you're welcome to visit, on my terms." His eyes flickered with something like shame. He didn't argue. The next morning I drove to the cabin alone. Mist curled off Pinecrest Lake as dawn painted the sky in pink and gold. I stepped onto the porch, now mine beyond dispute, and breathed in the scent of pine and damp earth. I ran a hand along the railing Grandpa and I had sanded years ago. "We did it, Grandpa," I whispered. "I'll keep it safe." Birdsong filled the quiet. The cabin, sturdy and timeless, seemed to welcome me home. Justice hadn't come from shouting or schemes, but from patience, truth, and the faith Grandpa placed in me. As the sun climbed higher, I settled into the old rocker, the mountains glowing in morning light. The cabin was secure, the family rift slowly healing. And for the first time since that awful dinner, peace settled over me like the steady hush of the lake.